we are basically taught, pretty much from the moment we can understand language, to see the color white as this complete absence of flaw.
Right, yeah, like it's presented to us as this ultimate state of grace.
Exactly. I mean, think about the myth of the empty canvas, right? Just waiting for a stroke of genius, or, a sterile hospital room that's been scrubbed totally clean of disease.
Or even in classical theology, it's the supposed state of the human soul before original sin enters the picture.
Yeah, white is pitched to us as the absolute baseline of existence.
Which is, frankly, a foundational myth of Western thought. There's this assumption that the natural state of the universe is a sterile void.
Oh, totally.
So anything added to it, like any texture, any color, any deviation at all, is inherently a corruption of that purity.
But what if that purity is just, well, a complete fabrication? What if composure, like that flawless, polished surface that you and I try so hard to maintain every single day, what if that's actually the most desperate performance of all?
I love that framing. It really sets the stage.
Thanks, because that's exactly what we're exploring today. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are taking you into a space that is going to, quite honestly, severely challenge how you think about aesthetics, psychology, and the very idea of perfection.
And we have some incredible source material for this. We're looking at a deeply fascinating interdisciplinary document.
Yeah, it operates as a conceptual manifesto, and it's also the track list for a 31-minute instrumental album titled Off-White.
Right, created by an artist known as 𝗧𝗔, creator, and released under the TATANKA banner.
And just to set the parameters right up front for how we're approaching this text, we are treating this like a subject for an interdisciplinary graduate seminar.
Exactly. We are not doing standard music criticism here. We aren't evaluating, the commercial viability of an ambient electronic album or critiquing the mixing.
No, we are mining this text through philosophy, film studies, music theory, theology, all of it. We really want to debate the author's interpretations and unpack the architecture of human concealment.
The architecture of concealment, that phrase alone is so heavy.
It is. And to borrow a phrase that 𝗧𝗧, creator, actually uses right in the introduction to this manifesto, smoke 'em if you got 'em. Because seriously, this is going to get abstract, it's going to get philosophical, and we are going to ask you to really interrogate the surfaces you present to the world.
Well, to start, we have to look at the cinematic genesis of this whole project. It's actually rooted in a 2020 film called It Snows in Benidorm.
Right, Benidorm.
Yeah. The creator isolates this very specific piece of dialogue from the film to serve as the sort of philosophical bedrock for the entire album.
So two characters are talking, and one of them says, I like white things. And the other responds that the Costa Blanca in Spain is basically the ideal place for them because it's the only thing that is truly white.
And then the character elaborates in this really striking way. They say that everything else in the world that seems white always hides something dirty inside.
Yeah, no matter how pristine the exterior is, there is always this hidden, dirty core, except, supposedly, for one specific thing in nature. Right. The dialogue claims that pearls are the whitest and most beautiful things.
Yeah.
Precisely because they don't hide anything dirty.
But here's where it gets amazing. The artist, 𝗧𝗧, creator, completely rejects the film's premise.
They just throw it right out.
Completely. They build this opposing ontological argument. And by ontological, for those listening, we just mean an argument about the fundamental nature of existence.
So what is the creator's argument then?
They argue that the pearl's very existence depends entirely on the grid inside it. The grain of sand, the blemish, is actually the womb of the universe.
Oh, wow. So the artist is forcing a total inversion of how we normally assign value.
Exactly. Traditionally, human aesthetics value the pearl for the nacre, right? That smooth, iridescent white coating.
And we just treat the grain of sand as a biological accident, like a minor irritation that the oyster paved over and fixed.
Yes. But this document insists the impurity is actually the sovereign core of all things. The text explicitly says, wait, let me quote this accurately.
Take your time.
Okay, here it is. We do not hide our nature because it is broken. We hide it because we've been convinced that the polished surface is the only thing worthy of the light.
Okay, let's unpack this with a quick biological reality check, because I think it helps ground the philosophy.
Go for it.
If we look at how nacre is actually formed, it's not some artistic endeavor by the oyster. It's an immune response.
It's a literal defense mechanism.
Right. An invading parasite or a sharp grain of sand breaches the shell, and it tears at the oyster's soft tissue. So to keep from bleeding to death or getting infected, the oyster swarms the invader with layers of calcium carbonate.
It suffocates the threat in a calcium tomb?
Exactly. So if we apply this to human psychology, like how we curate our social media profiles, the off-white persona isn't just a polite smile.
It's psychological scar tissue.
Yes, it's the scar tissue we form to isolate our messy, painful nature from the outside world.
The immune response analogy really captures the stakes here. It means the creation of that off-white surface is an act of sheer survival.
Which is heavy when you think about how exhausting it is to maintain.
It is, and it makes me question the creator's seeming condemnation of that surface. Like, if we bring Carl Jung into this, we have the concept of the persona.
The mask we wear to interface with society.
Right, and Jung argues the persona isn't inherently evil or false. It's a necessary membrane. I mean, without the nacre, the oyster is just enduring constant, agonizing lacerations from that grain of sand.
That's a really good point. So is the artist demanding we rip the nacre off entirely, or are they just asking us to sit in the dissonance of knowing the mask is there?
That tension is what makes the document so compelling for a seminar discussion, because the album doesn't actually destroy the nacre.
No, it doesn't.
It's literally a collection of 12 shades of stillness that meticulously recreate that calcified shell.
Okay, so if we accept that the pearl is this elaborate biological mask, we have to look at how the artist translates that defense mechanism into sound and mathematics.
Yes, the architecture of the album itself, it relies so heavily on theology and symbolism. There are exactly 12 tracks.
Which isn't an accident.
Definitely not. The creator ties this number explicitly to divine order. 12 tribes in ancient texts, 12 apostles, 12 zodiac signs dividing the cosmos.
It represents completeness.
Exactly. Each track is positioned as one pearl on an infinite cosmic string.
And the titles of these 12 tracks are literal hex codes.
Right, the color codes.
Yeah, for anyone unfamiliar, a hex code is a 6-symbol string of letters and numbers used in computing to tell a screen exactly what color to display. So track 1 is #HuffA_snow.
Track 2 is #5505 white smoke. Track 3, #50 ivory.
Translating the organic biological color of a pearl into a rigid digital absolute is such a profound structural choice.
It really is. It takes the subjective experience of color and just locks it into this mathematical grid.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. By using hex codes, like this language of exact sterile computation, to describe something born from the bloody immune response of an oyster, isn't the artist making a brutal commentary on modern cleanliness?
Oh, absolutely. Look at the prompt for track 2, white smoke.
Oh, I love the notes for that one.
The text describes it as, quote, manufactured cleanliness, hazy, synthetic, the sound of a lobby that's been sanitized into blankness.
It literally calls the music muzak, with the warmth removed. We've basically taken the chaotic human experience and sanitized it into a 6-digit digital output.
The commodification of purity. We don't just want to be clean, we want to be computationally flawless.
Which is terrifying,
It
obviously.
is. But the artist doesn't allow the listener to simply rest in that synthetic lobby. And this is where the music theory becomes the real philosophical engine of the document.
Right, because inside every single one of these 12 tracks, mixed entirely apart from the main arrangement, is what the creator calls a ghost tone.
A single fleeting harmonic note.
And this ghost tone is the sonic manifestation of the grain of sand, the blemish itself.
Because it's mixed independently, it fades in and out of the song seemingly at random. It vibrates against the pristine, off-white textures of the arrangement.
It is the inescapable reality of the track. The creator even provides a theoretical mapping, showing how each ghost tone relates to the key signature.
Let's break down the mechanics of a few of these because they completely dictate the psychological environment of the music.
Okay, yeah. Take track 1, Snow, that's in the key of G minor, and the ghost cone mapped to it is a D, which mathematically is a perfect fifth.
Right, and to understand the impact of that, we have to talk about the acoustics of a perfect fifth. Aside from the octet itself, the perfect fifth is the most stable, resonant, foundational harmony in all of music.
It's basically the bedrock of acoustic physics.
Exactly. But the prompt for track 1 calls for a solo bowed vibraphone or a glass harmonica to hold that perfect fifth past comfort, and then it is allowed to decay into absolute silence.
So if the perfect fifth is the bedrock of acoustic physics, the artist is essentially showing us that purity is a floor that will inevitably drop out from under you.
Yes. It cannot be sustained.
Now contrast that structural collapse with track 11, Blanched Almond. This track is also rooted in G minor, but the ghost tone here is a D flat.
Musically, that creates an augmented fourth.
The famous tritone, the interval historically known as the devil in music.
Early church theorists practically banned the tritone from sacred music because of how violently unstable it sounds.
And the reason it sounds so unsettling is pure physics, right?
Completely. A tritone perfectly splits the octave exactly in half, so the sound waves physically clash in the air, creating this jagged frequency that the human ear literally struggles to process.
Your brain basically demands that the note shift slightly just to resolve that mathematical friction.
Right. Have you ever been in an incredibly intense argument with someone, and right before anything is solved, they just turn around and walk out of the room?
Oh man, yeah. That tight physical knot in your stomach.
Exactly. That absolute demand for closure that you are suddenly denied. That is exactly what this track does mathematically.
The prompt actually describes a cold synth drone competing with a warm bowed cello, playing this persistent close dissonance that simply refuses to resolve. It just ends mid-tension.
So if we synthesize the theology of the 12 tracks with this acoustic physics, the ghost tone functions as a structural realization of original sin.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's not a moral failing or a punitive mark. It's an ontological reality.
Right. The blemish is baked into the math of the key signature. You can be entirely distracted by the beautiful lace-like arrangement of track 9 or the Baroque ornamentation of track 3, but that clashing sound wave is dictating the acoustic reality of the room.
The grid is sovereign.
The ghost tone acts as the gravitational center, and the off-white arrangement is just this desperate orbit trying to pretend it's flying in a straight line.
But eventually orbits decay. I mean, while 11 of the tracks are obsessed with building that layer of nacre, there are moments in the document where the psychological defense mechanisms just fail entirely.
The exploration of vulnerability here is so stark. Let's look at track 7, #FA8AF, Ghost White.
Yeah, the creator specifically notes, this is the one track that breaks the established character of the album.
The prompt dictates a single instrument, either a solo violin or a theremin. But more importantly, it specifies the recording technique. It must be completely dry.
And for the non-audio engineers listening, recording dry means there is zero artificial space added, like no reverb, no echo.
Think about singing in the shower, right? The tile acts as natural reverb, bouncing your voice around and making you sound powerful, almost godlike.
It smooths out all your vocal flaws.
Exactly. Recording dry means you step out of the shower and sing in a closet full of winter coats.
You hear every breath, every harsh scrape of the bow on the string, just a stark reality of a small, dead room.
The text says, quote, "Nothing standing between the note and the room. The arrangement itself is the honesty."
And the ghost tone for this track is a pure unison. It's the one place where the blemish and the surface are the exact same note.
It is positioned as this moment of radical exposure, like completely stripping away the nacre.
I really have to challenge this premise, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
As much as I appreciate the poetry of the unison note, is track 7 actually an instance of true honesty? Or is it just another slightly more sophisticated aesthetic performance?
Oh, interesting. What is the distinction you're drawing there?
Well, stripping away reverb, using a single dry instrument, intentionally minimizing vibrato. In the context of producing a studio album, those are still highly deliberate, curated choices.
Ah, I see what you mean.
It's exactly like when a Hollywood A-lister wears absolutely no makeup in an indie film to show the audience how raw and vulnerable they are being.
Right, the calculated absence of makeup is still a costume designed to elicit a reaction.
Exactly. Recording a dry, scraping note and placing it exactly at track 7 makes it part of the performance. The rawness is artificial.
That cuts right to the inescapable paradox of human communication. Honestly, the moment you're observed, you are performing.
You cannot not perform.
Right. So the dry recording is just a different flavor of nacre, but I think the artist actually anticipates this critique.
Really? How so? Because they introduce an outlier that circumvents performance entirely. There is a color detailed in the manifesto that is explicitly denied a track number.
Oh, right. Black.
Yes. Inspired by the character Alex from the Benegum film, who wears black to obfuscate her dubious past.
The creator writes, "She's not on the string, she moves underneath it. Black, worn on purpose, not to disappear, but to close the question before anyone can ask it."
And the sonic instruction for this concept is to listen for where the low end drops out. She's there.
Refusing to hand over a secret, that is a brutal psychological strategy.
It is the ultimate stonewall, and it validates your critique of track 7 perfectly. We are actually being presented with 3 distinct psychological survival strategies in this document.
Okay, break those down.
First, you have the persona. That's the 11 tracks of Off-White Nacre. The polite, exhausting mask.
Second would be refusal.
Right. The color black, the dropping out of the low end, that aggressive boundary that shuts down inquiry before it even begins.
And then the third strategy is track 7, the dry note.
Which isn't objective truth. It is simply the existential terror of the moment when, as the text brilliantly frames it, nothing is asking you to sell anything anymore.
It's the sheer exhaustion of composure.
Exactly. And that exhaustion is the only logical conclusion to this project, which we see manifested in the final track, track 12, Beige.
Beige, the most uninspired, ordinary iteration of white imaginable.
The prompt for Beige abandons musicality almost entirely. It calls for echoes of fragments faintly underneath, but they're overwhelmed by raw room noise.
Footsteps, the creak of a chair, a window left open to the street. The text just reads, the album simply runs out of things to hide and stops.
It is a profound anticlimax. The relentless maintenance of our off-white personas requires a staggering expenditure of caloric and psychic energy.
You can't secrete nacre forever.
You really can't. Eventually, the biological tape runs out, the performance halts, and we are left with nothing but the physical reality of a body in a chair, in a room, listening to the street.
Which would be a rather bleak, almost nihilistic place to leave you, the listener. But as we pull back from this microscopic analysis of digital hex codes, acoustic physics, and Jungian masks, we have to look at the macrocosmic message the creator leaves at the very end of the document.
Yes, this is crucial. The text is stamped with the TATANKA logo, and it concludes abruptly with 3 quotes from Sitting Bull, the legendary 19th century Lakota Sioux chief.
At first glance, you might wonder how the worldview of an indigenous leader connects to an ambient electronic album dissecting digital color theory.
It seems disconnected, but it's really the key to the whole thing.
Let me read the first quote. It is through this mysterious power that we too have our being, and we therefore yield to our neighbors, even to our animal neighbors, the same right as ourselves to inhabit this vast land.
And the second quote. Let us put our minds together and see what life we can make for our children.
And the third, behold, my friends, the spring has come. The earth has gladly received the embraces of the sun, and we shall soon see the results of their love.
So how do we synthesize a 19th century philosophy of profound ecological interconnectedness with 12 digital shades of stillness?
We have to return to the metaphor of the string, don't we?
Exactly. The creator established that each song is one pearl on an infinite string. The Lakota worldview, specifically Sitting Bull's words here, emphasizes a cosmic equality.
Yielding the right to inhabit the space to all neighbors, even the animal ones.
Right, and if we turn that philosophy inward, applying it to our own psychological landscape, it is about yielding space to the grain of sand. It is about accepting the parasite.
It is about recognizing the ghost tone not as a flaw to be masked, but as a neighbor with a right to inhabit the arrangement.
Yes.
It is an absolute rejection of the sterile hospital room.
Yeah.
Because the sterile room is an environment built on dominance and eradication. We kill all the bacteria. We enforce this pristine, unyielding white canvas.
But the earth receiving the embraces of the sun, that is messy.
That is dirt and mud and decay. It requires grit to grow anything at all.
The surface is never the true performance. The true performance is the biological, messy reality happening underneath while the surface holds still.
So by ending with Sitting Bull, the artist suggests that our interconnectedness as humans is not found in how well we polish our off-white personas.
The nacre actually keeps us isolated inside our own protective calcium spheres.
Wow. Our true connection to the universe and to each other is found in the shared reality of the grit. We are all flawed, vibrating grains of sand.
That shared blemish is what makes the universe whole. We do not hide our nature because it is broken. We hide it because we have been convinced that the polished surface is the only thing worthy of the light.
It forces a total reevaluation of human worth. It really is an invitation to stop admiring the paint on the walls and start listening for the foundational structure vibrating underneath it all.
Absolutely.
And then that brings us to the close of today's deep dive. But, as always, we never want you to leave without something to chew on.
We've spent this entire time unpacking how we use off-white nacre to hide our messy, vibrating flaws. But consider the inverse.
What if we actually succeed? What if a society manages to perfectly eradicate the ghost tone, scrub away all the grit, and achieve a total, clinical, unyielding whiteness?
If the blemish is truly the womb of the universe, does achieving true perfection mean the end of creation itself?
Something to think about as you move through those perfectly sanitized lobbies this week?